Hello and welcome to the lecture on power from solar PV. I'm Dr. Adil Server from the Department of Electrical Engineering. Let me start with the word sustainability. Sustainability, if you search it on Google, it will give you some meaning, and one of them being avoidance of the depletion of natural resources in order to maintain an ecological balance. So every country around the world wants to develop itself, and development should not be at the cost of ecological balance. It should be sustainable. Okay, so let me start my presentation. This is the layout of the presentation. I would be talking about the global energy consumption scenario. Then I would be talking about why there is a need to switch to renewable energy sources, and what is the Indian and world scenario in solar PV generation system. And then I would be talking about the challenges faced by the solar PV industry, especially in terms of efficiency and cost. And then I would be concluding. So let's start. So the world energy consumption has increased exponentially in last few decades, and most of our dependence is on fossil fuel. As you could see here, that most of the power or energy is being generated from fossil fuel. Some part of it is coming from the coal, the oil, and the natural gas, and a very small amount is coming from other sources, including renewable energy sources. Similarly, if we see the regional distribution of energy consumption, we could find that although the countries like the developed countries like the Northern America and the countries in Europe and even in the Middle East, they have already come to a state of saturation in energy consumption, but the developing countries, especially in the South Asia, in the Asia Pacific, they are in mode of rapid development, and they require energy to achieve that goal. So that's why we could see here this steep rise in the consumption of energy by these countries. So what are the adverse effects of the indiscriminate use of fossil fuel? We do know that if energy being produced from fossil fuel based resources, then it causes unimaginable degradation to the environment. Moreover, there is effect on the health of the human population. Then more recently we have been learning about this term global warming, which says that if the world average temperature it goes above 1.5 degrees Celsius, then we are at the point of no return. Rather, if it is more than 2 degrees Celsius, then we are at a point of no return, and then it could lead to the melting of glaciers and ice and in the polar region as well as in Antarctica. It could lead to submerging of the places inhabited by humans to be submerged under the sea, as could be seen here in this. This is an animated figure actually. Then there is a problem of monopoly. You see the energy that derived from fossil fuel. Fossil fuel is not uniformly distributed throughout the world. Some of the countries are having it in abundance, while some of the countries don't have it. So that naturally leads to a conflict between various countries and regions of the world to dominate the world. So it leads to a conflict. So these are some of the serious problems posed by our dependence on fossil fuel based resources to meet our energy demand. Moreover, there's a problem of ozone depletion also. It was detected way back in 1980. Then this level of ozone has gone down to a level which is considered to be quite serious. And let me tell you that ozone layer actually protects the population, the human population in the world, from the harmful ultraviolet rays coming from the sun by absorbing it. So if there is depletion in ozone, then the harmful ultraviolet rays is going to reach the earth and uh, then adversely affect the health of the human population, especially it causes cancer and innumerable diseases. But because of the steps taken by the world government, now we could see that this curve is now rising and going back to the safety the safety line. But still, we are 40 years uh, in time to see that happen. Okay, so things have been happening around the world, and scientists, environmentalists have been raising their voice against the indiscriminate use of fossil fuel based resources to meet the energy demand. But some of the things that had happened in history, which have actually forced the world government to think over ways of generating or meeting energy demand by way of some alternative resources. So first, one of them being the first oil crisis of 1973 and the second oil crisis of the 1979. It was because of some political crisis that happened in some part of the world, which led to an oil embargo to some of the Western countries. So it resulted in oil crisis. So countries started thinking of developing resources which are more sustainable in nature. Okay, then one incident that happened in 1986, which is infamously called the Chernobyl accident. It was actually a nuclear disaster. So a few decades back, scientists were of the view that the nuclear power is going to replace the fossil fuel based energy generation, uh, especially electrical energy generation system. But such incidents, one which is shown here in this slide, and there were some others that forced them to rethink about this possibility of depending on nuclear energy for meeting the electrical energy demand in bulk. And more recently, this incident happened in Japan, in a place called Fukushima. It was a result of the tsunami, and so it shows how susceptible is the nuclear power plant to changes, and there are safety concerns. So we realize that there is a need to move to renewable sources of energy. So I would be talking about specifically solar PV generation system. I've just mentioned some of the renewable sources here: wind, solar, tidal, geothermal, and there are a host of other things. But wind and solar are being looked upon as the potential player in energy market in the future, given their availability almost throughout the world without any discrimination, and moreover, they are available free of cost, and they are inexhaustible, and The main thing, they do not cause pollution, or the pollution is very low, negligible compared to what we have in case of fossil fuel based resources. Then low maintenance, especially in case of solar PV, as there is no moving part. So solar energy can be utilized in two ways. One of the way to utilize the solar energy is in form of solar thermal. In solar thermal system, the sunlight, the heat content of the sunlight is utilized for generation of electrical energy. So first of all, what happens? There are lots of mirrors that are erected around this tower, and the sunlight falling on these mirrors are focused on the center, on the top of this tower, which actually contains some fluid, and it gets heat up and generate steam, and that steam is used to run turbine, and thereby electricity is generated. uh, so the problem with this type of energy generation system is that it can be located at far off places. Definitely it cannot be located close to the load center, and moreover a large space is required. The efficiency itself is a bit low, um, because multiple stage of energy conversion is there. Then another way is to generate electricity directly from the sunlight by way of a process called photovoltaic effect. Uh, in this, the sunlight falling on sort of photovoltaic panels are directly converted into DC electricity. So the focus of our discussion would be this solar photovoltaic generation system, and we could find solar PV everywhere, almost everywhere, in every area of power generation. You will find solar PV there. It all started with the space application and military application because of the high cost that was associated with solar PV cells. But now, since the costs have come down, so we could find solar PV almost everywhere in electrical, in cars, in transportation system, lighting your or running hospitals, electrical demands of the hospitals, schools, offices, even in agriculture. And we could now find a large scale application of solar PV in grid application. Let's talk about the solar potential in India. The total installed capacity in India is 392 gigawatts as on 30/11/2021, and most of it is coming from coal. So 51.7% of it is coming from coal, 6.4% of it is coming from gas, and 9. That is for hydro. 11.9 is for hydro, and 26.5 is from other renewable energy sources. So India is actually moving in a big way towards renewable energy system. And this is the breakup. This is that renewable energy, 12.2% coming from hydro, and 10.1% coming from wind, 9.6% coming from solar. Okay, so now talking about the solar potential in India. So you could see that this map, it shows that India has got around 748 gigawatts of solar energy potential. Okay, so that's huge. That's even more than two times the current installed capacity throughout in India. So if actually tapped, this potential could be the future generation source for Indian states. So way back in 2010, India put in place an ambitious plan in which it was planned to install solar PV and other solar thermal system in large way. And in 2014 it was again replanned, and finally the plan is to generate 100 gigawatts of electricity by 2022. uh, as of now, on 31st November 2021, 48.556 gigawatts of electricity is being generated from solar PV alone. That's a big number. So we could see here that, and if you distribute it within the states, Karnataka stand first with around 7.3 gigawatts of electricity being generated. Rajasthan comes second with 5.3 around 5.3 gigawatts of electricity, and so on. Then talking about the world scenario, so India is contributing fairly well in the overall generation from solar PV system, and it stands almost fourth after China, United States, Japan. India is producing around 57.4 gigawatts of electricity in 2020. Okay, so actually this was the projected data. This data was projected way back in, I think, 2015 or 16, and the current situation I have already mentioned here. It is around 48.556 at the end of the year 2021. Okay, so lots of job in renewable energy sector. It employed around big numbers. It is in thousand. So 3,755,000 people got job in solar photovoltaic. Similarly, some other renewable energy sources, and around 10.3 million jobs were created in 2017 in Asia alone. Okay, so what are the challenges in solar PV? I would specifically be talking about efficiency and cost. So this is a complete layout of a solar PV generation system. Multiple things are there because this is a solar cell. The overall rating of the solar cell is quite low, so we need to connect them in series and parallel to generate meaningful amount of power so that it could be used for some meaningful purpose. And these panels are then connected in series and parallel, called array. And finally, we can use this entire solar PV array system for multiple tasks. Talking about the various technologies that are in place, the monocrystalline and polycrystalline and thin film technology are actually the most used technologies throughout the world. And more recently, we have some concentrating solar cells, then dyes, organic and nanomaterial based solar cells coming up in market. Although the efficiency of these sources are quite low, but the cost of generation is very less. So in near future, might be this efficiency is going up, and we could see that many of these solar cells made from dyes and organic and nanomaterials. Now, talking about the efficiency, so you could see here that these are various types of solar cells. Multi-junction solar cells have the highest efficiency, and in lab conditions, around 43.5% has already been achieved, even in 2015. Okay, so great potential. Also, although this number is very this multi-junction cells are quite costly, and they are not used for commercial application, and they are limited for space application. Okay, but as technology advances, we could see that this the cost of these will come down definitely, and they may dominate the future consumer market. Okay, about cost. Exponential decrease in cost. So in 1977, a single watt power from solar PV cost $76. Right now it costs $0.3. Okay, and in India we have different costs for various solar types of solar PV cell. The monocrystalline solar cells are quite costly, and comparing these monocrystalline and polycrystalline, you could see that polycrystalline has got the highest efficiency, and moreover it has the highest lifespan also, but it is quite costly. So polycrystalline now dominates the solar PV market, although efficiency is a bit less, and even this not exactly 25 years, it bit less, 15 to 20 years, and that too when it is kept well maintained. Uh, but 10 to 15 years is quite normal for polycrystalline solar cells. That's a large time span. Okay, so let me conclude. So solar PV is definitely going to be a clean and alternate source of energy in the future, with application ranging from few watts to gigawatts in big power plants. And new materials and technology is definitely going to make solar PV much more cheaper and more efficient, and we could see that solar PV is going to dominate the future energy market. Thanks for watching.